You're welcome to The World Today, our first edition for the year 2026. I'm Amarachi Ubani, welcoming all our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Unfortunately, we begin with sad news. Dozens of people thought to have died, with more than 100 others injured in a fire at a Swiss ski resort bar. A fire started at around 1:30 local time at the La Constellation bar in the southwest of Switzerland. Here's as much as we know. One man telling the news agency AFP that he was trapped in the burning building and had to break a window to escape. According to him, a lot of people were trapped and they could not see because of the smoke and did not know how to get out. He says all of his clothes are gone. People have been paying tributes to those who died in the fire. But Swiss authorities have described the deadly blaze at the ski resort as a fire rather than an attack, and said that many of the 100 people who were injured were very seriously hurt. They said in a press conference earlier today, we count around 100 injured, most of them seriously, and unfortunately several dozen people are warned deceased. That's according to Police Commander Frederick Gisler. He says currently the main streets of Cran is closed for the investigation. An inquiry has been opened by the Public Prosecutor's Office of the Canton of Valais. He also says he wants to clarify that at this point they're focusing on a fire and there is no question of any kind of attack. Also, out of respect for the families, he wants everyone to understand that this is as much they will be able to say, and they will be only informing as time goes on. Well, the Italian Foreign Ministry has quoted officials as saying that 40 people may have died in that fire, which broke out at 1:30 a.m. local time at the La Constellation bar in southwest Switzerland. Some eyewitnesses suggested there was a birthday going on, a birthday celebration, and one of the candles was on top of a champagne bottle, which set fire to the ceiling. But this was not confirmed by reporters on the ground. And we do have very limited pictures coming from Switzerland, but we have this one: helicopters airlifting injured people following the deadly blaze at the ski resort to hospitals around the area. The latest information from the Swiss authorities suggesting the majority of the 100 reported hurt were seriously injured. A number of dead still trying to be verified. The media briefing that appears to be dozens of people. The Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs quoting at least 40 people dead. The cause of the blaze of the fire is still a mystery. Authorities still trying to determine that, but describing it only as a fire and not an attack. They did rule out an explosive device following reports of a blast, but only after telling reporters there was not an explosion, and then admitting that there was a small one, which they said was due to the fire taking hold. They also refused to be drawn into whether pyrotechnics were at play here after online videos showed sparklers served in drinks at the bar previously. It said that absolutely nothing to do with whether the bar complied with safety standards. They did admit that it is likely the victims were of different nationalities. Investigations are still ongoing in this incident. To the Netherlands now, where police were pelted with fireworks and faced an unprecedented amount of violence on New Year's Eve. According to officers, a 19th century church in the country was engulfed by fire. We'll have more on this later. It has happened in the early hours of today, although the cause of the blaze is still unknown. The church, known as the Wonderkerk, overlooks the largest park in the city. It's been a tourist attraction since it was built in 1872. Elsewhere, a 17-year-old boy and a 38-year-old man were killed in fireworks incidents. In Bielefeld, Germany, local police said 2 18-year-olds died after setting off homemade fireworks. The head of the Dutch police union, Nina Kuimen, said she had been pelted by fireworks and other explosives on her shift in Amsterdam. The amount of violence, authorities say, is unprecedented. There have been reports against attacks on police and firefighters across the country as well. More now on that fire at the church, the Volderklerk, which was left largely destroyed after a major fire broke out in the early hours of today. It was set to spread rapidly through the 154-year-old landmark. Firefighters battled the blaze as much as they could. Smoke poured from the building, with crews dousing the structure from multiple angles. Emergency services were alerted around 12:45 a.m. shortly after the New Year's Eve celebrations ended. The fire reportedly started in the upper section of the church. It spread quickly through the original wooden interior and the roof. By 2:30 this morning, the church's 50-meter-high spire and large sections of the roof had collapsed into the center of the building. The cause of the fire remains a mystery, but it is under investigation. A public speculation has linked the blaze to consumer fireworks used during New Year celebrations. The fire brigade has not confirmed that ignition was the source. Authorities advised nearby residents to keep windows and doors closed due to heavy smoke. As a precaution, several homes on Vendersrat were evacuated, leaving 90 residents temporarily without electricity. Although the neo-Gothic stone exterior remains standing, officials from the Amsterdam safety region said the building had been gutted and cannot be saved. No injuries were reported in this fire. To Ukraine now, where President Volodymyr Zelensky says a peace agreement to end the war with Russia is at 90% ready. In his New Year address to the people, which largely focused on resistance to Moscow's full-scale invasion, he said the remaining 10% of the agreement to end nearly 4 years of conflict will determine the fate of peace, the fate of Ukraine and Europe. Well, in his own New Year message, President Vladimir Putin of Russia told troops, "We believe in you and our victory." Early on Wednesday, Moscow released what it said was evidence of Ukraine using drones to target Putin's home on Lake Valdai in northwest Russia, allegations which Kyiv has denied. It included a map allegedly showing the drones were launched from the Sumy and Chernihiv regions of Ukraine and a video of a downed drone lying in snowy woodland. A serviceman standing next to the wreckage claims it is a Ukrainian Chalcon drone. Well, media reports on the ground have not been able to verify the footage. It's not possible to locate where it was shot, but Russia said it would review its position on the ongoing peace negotiations as a result of the alleged incident. Meaning the incident where it accuses Ukraine of trying to bomb the residence of President Vladimir Putin in Novgorod. And with events happening across the world, many of them disasters, there were also New Year messages that focused on peace, reconciliation, the economy, as well as good tidings for 2026. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu is one. He declared 2026 as the beginning of a more robust phase of economic growth for Nigeria, citing significant gains made in 2025 and outlining ambitious plans for national development. In his message to the nation, the president expressed optimism about the country's economic trajectory, highlighting a projected GDP growth and a steady decline in inflation. He said, "We closed 2025 on a strong note despite the policies to fight inflation. Nigeria recorded a robust GDP growth each quarter, with annualized growth expected to exceed 1% for the year. We maintained trade surpluses and achieved greater exchange rate stability. Inflation declined steadily and reached below 15%, in line with our target. In 2026, we are determined to reduce inflation further and ensure that the benefits of reform reach every Nigerian household." The words of President Tinubu. He emphasized the importance of consolidating the gains in 2026 through continued implementation of policies aimed at building a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable economy. Speaking on fiscal matters, the president reiterated his administration's commitment to discipline and tax reform. He praised states aligning with the national tax harmonization agenda and stressed the 2026 appropriation bill would further entrench reforms to create a fair and competitive fiscal environment. These efforts, he noted, are essential to expanding infrastructure and social investments that will drive shared prosperity. Security remained a central theme in the president's address. He acknowledged ongoing threats from terrorists and criminal elements, particularly in the northwest and northeast, and he commended the armed forces for their sustained operations. He reaffirmed his belief in decentralized policing and the role of regulated forest guards in tackling insecurity, and pledged deeper cooperation with international and regional partners in 2026. President Tinubu urged all citizens to embrace unity, patriotism, and shared responsibility in building a stronger Nigeria. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa also gave a New Year message. He said his country has ensured the Global South have been heard during its presidency of G20. He also acknowledged ongoing domestic challenges, including high living costs, unemployment, and gender-based violence, but that there's been much success in addressing them. Our correspondent Innocent Samosa reports.
In his year-end video, President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted some successes, which include the successful hosting of the G20 Leaders Summit, the easing of load-shedding incidents, and the country's first upgrade of its sovereign credit rating in 2 decades.
South Africa's standing in the global community has been enhanced and reaffirmed by our successful hosting of the first G20 summit ever held on African soil. The leaders' declaration adopted by the summit.
Ramaphosa also noted some of the country's persistent challenges of poverty, high levels of crime, and unemployment.
We are working on creating more jobs, especially for young people. Inflation has eased. The cost of living is coming down. The rand has strengthened. South Africa's sovereign credit rating has been upgraded for the first time in 20 years.
2025 was a year of contrast for South Africa, marked by diplomatic achievements, the G20, economic resilience, sports glory, cultural milestone, meaningful social reform, but also a sobering reminder of ongoing challenges like violence and public safety issues. I had an opportunity to speak to some locals here about their New Year's resolutions. Take a listen to what they had to say.
I'd like to see corruption go down, especially most corruption. Employment also. I'd like to have an improvement or co-employment. And at this side, our village, I'd like to have more improvement from the village, from the government.
From my own side, my wish for the government, my focus is actually more on young people. My prayer every day is that I wish that we have the South Africa whereby regardless of your situation, regardless of your location, regardless of who do you know in a higher position, but especially young people.
From our government, I would like to say I want a better employment for our kids, because most of the youth, they got educated, but after graduation, it seems that they are not themselves anymore. Some, they get to drug addict.
For Africa, I think as Africans, I would love to see Africans uniting. I would love to see Africans working together.
As the country turns the new page of 2026, South Africans are hopeful that the progress highlighted by President Cyril Ramaphosa will translate into tangible improvements in their daily lives. From Mpumalanga, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
There'll be more New Year celebrations coming up after the break on The World Today. Well, some of the fireworks celebrations in the United States, the early hours of January 1st, 2026, being viewed by people at different landmark sites in the United States. Large-scale celebrations this Wednesday, like Wednesday night into Thursday morning, the fireworks and light shows transforming the Washington Monument into a massive New Year celebration. Crowds did gather at the monument in the final seconds of 2025. Elsewhere, residents assembled at the Lincoln Memorial, raising phones to capture the illuminated obelisk and fireworks display. The obelisk looking like a candle, right there in the background. Projections on the monument feature the U.S. flag and images referencing key moments from the country's history. Celebrations included the Freedom 250 light spectacle, staged as part of commemorations marking the United States' upcoming 250th anniversary, which falls in 2026. President Donald Trump also announced plans for the construction of a triumphal arch intended to mark the anniversary. The project is expected to begin in around 2 months. Our correspondent, though, Maria Bird, did try to capture as much as she could the feeling in the United States at the early hours of January 1st.
Happy New Year from Washington. And it has been a great year of expectation already, and we're just a few hours in, as many spent their evenings at watch night services in Washington and across the United States, with friends and family in prayer and thinking about how God will protect them and cover them, the things they're looking forward to in 2026. As others also were able to celebrate at the National Mall with the great fireworks, as the U.S. is also celebrating 250 years. So there was great excitement with fireworks and concerts and people just enjoying the evening. But that does not stop the big Times Square announcement in New York City, where many stood there as the ball dropped at the strike of 12. The 2026 ball was new, and so people were excited. Even though it's 32 degrees outside, many people were there bundled up, celebrating, singing, dancing, and looking forward to 2026. All across the United States, from Los Angeles to Washington to Boston to New York City, there were celebrations, as the U.S. has had the 2026 ring in at different times. In Washington, it rang in a little bit over 3 hours earlier than it did in Los Angeles, but that still did not stop the great celebration. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channel Television News.
And Maria's out from the cold into the warmth of her apartment. She joins us now on the program. Maria, brave of you to have braved that weather outside. I know it's freezing in Washington at the moment. But early this morning, lots of people, although celebrating outside with the fireworks, there were people in church, right?
Yes, many Americans decided to take it into the church. Watch night services are a tradition, especially within the African American community in the United States. It goes back to slavery. And so that was a lot of what people did on this. And it's also crossed over various ethnic backgrounds. So now you'll see not only African Americans, but all races going to church at that watch night hour into the wee hours of the morning of the new year. And so it was a time of prayer for many, a time of reflection, but also a time to come together as family and friends gathering with one another. And so as we saw millions outside, there was much speculation that millions more were home celebrating from the comfort and the warmth, as you mentioned, because it is quite frigid temperatures on the East Coast region of the United States.
Yeah, Maria, really have to commend you for going out, in that freezing cold. But, the celebrations this year are very significant for America. 250 years. So the fireworks were a lot more than the previous years, right?
Yes, the fireworks were a lot more. We actually, on the U.S. monument, and you shared that clip earlier, There's actually images of 250 years, the flag being wrapped around, and that's expected for throughout this week. So for another 5 days or so, you'll see the monument lit up with various images. And so this is just the beginning, as you mentioned, of this 250-year anniversary of the United States, as we're a very young country, but one that obviously brings forth so many different diverse backgrounds, as the majority of Americans have immigrated from somewhere else.
Yeah, and President Trump really wants to mark this anniversary. He's planning a triumphal arc to what does he mean by that? What is that intended to look like, and where will that be located?
Well, it'll be located in that region where you see the monuments. He'll have that triumphant arch. The White House is not too far from the monument, the Washington Monument, which you're showing there. And so it'll be in that area, downtown, a very visible location. Triumphant arc, we're not quite exactly sure. We know that it is something he has been very clear on making his mark in American history, and so it's not a surprise that it's being considered a triumphant arc. But I think that what we'll end up seeing is something that will really be kind of a mystical, very large structure to commemorate this time. So we've never seen one before, and so this will be very new, I think, for us all.
Very, very new. It is reminiscent of some cultures in Europe. Maria, let's talk about cultures, though. As I told our correspondent Innocent Samosa on Network Africa, we know that different countries have different festivities and activities for the new year. Some have special foods they eat, in the first hours of the new year. Others have different traditions. What is it like for the United States? What do people really do in the few hours when they enter into the new year?
Well, the U.S. has quite a few traditions. Some of the very old traditions are around black eyed peas. There's a belief around the good luck, and so everyone eats a pot of black eyed peas. To be honest, they are probably off the shelves. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they could not find any black eyed peas to make, and so that becomes a very frantic time for many Americans. Also, greens. Collard greens are a sign of money, wealth, and so people like to make those and eat those as well on New Year's. And so those are the two main kind of foods that you'll see in most homes across the United States during this time. And people really do like to cook it themselves. Sometimes you'll see restaurants will definitely have it on the menu on January the 1st as a way to allow people to have their first taste or their at least a bite of a black eyed pea or collard greens. Addition to that, one of the newer traditions, and I think globally as well, is really visioning. U.S. has been, spent many years resolutions was a huge part of kind of the beginning of the year. You'll see all types of ads around gym memberships, financial organizations trying to get people to get their finances together. So it's a time where people really start to begin their resolutions. But visioning has become a huge part of the American tradition as well, vision boarding, and people kind of setting their eyes on what their goals are for the year. And so that's a lot of what you'll see people spending time on this first week of the year. People will also go into some times of prayer and fasting for the first 30 days of the year to really be able to identify what they should be focused on throughout the new year.
Well, I guess the prayer part is important. I don't know about resolutions. People don't usually keep them. I don't. Thanks again. Thanks again, Maria, and a happy new year to you and your family.
Happy New Year to you and yours as well.
We had to show you more fireworks on the world today. The Sheikh Zayed Festival in the Al Waqba area of Abu Dhabi, marking the new year with large-scale celebrations Wednesday evening, drawing, of course, massive crowds, visitors enjoying the light shows, the fireworks and the drone performances. We're looking at the festival grounds packed with spectators watching the elaborate visual displays there. I guess that's the ruler of Abu Dhabi being highlighted by drones depicting the late founding president Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan and the country's current leader Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The festival staged a 62-minute fireworks display aiming to break the 5 Guinness World Records. In addition, 6,500 drones formed 9 giant 3D aerial formations to become the largest fleet ever used for a single 20-minute New Year performance. I bet we'll be seeing more of that all week. Celebrations around the world, people ushering in 2026. Thanks for joining me on the program today. I'm Amarachi Mbadi.